Hello, it's Scott Manley here with the final part of Eve or Bust. It has been an epic quest, but we are about to go home. But not before we perform a small experiment with the launch vehicle that we use to return our crew from the surface. You see, it's quite common for space probes that are reaching the end of their life to actually be used in, well, impact experiments. To drop them onto the surface of some body to see what happens when you drop several tons of space probe. It's quite common to do this on the moon because the moon has so many unstable orbits. It's preferable to just put the satellite onto some orbit where it will perhaps hit the interior of some crater near the poles and perhaps kick up a plume of dust that can be analysed on Earth. Well, in this case I hope to hit the ground and get some seismic readings. Unfortunately I missed completely and managed to make a splashdown in the ocean, but no doubt we will be able to discern some sort of hydroseismic information from this impact. Regardless, the rest of the crew have to get themselves home. So first of all, we got to set ourselves onto a rendezvous with the space station, the Eve station that is in a low Eve orbit. That involves just a little bit of adjusting of orbits to synchronize them again. Meanwhile, yeah, normally I've been doing my Deep Space Network news events every week, but with everything going on, I haven't been able to get one planned, so I'm just going to talk about the news as well while I'm going through this, because of course I always have lots of time to fill. So yeah, you see we're just adjusting our approach vector here to more or less keep it straight on. As it drifts, I'm just firing to keep my approach vector lined up, and then at the last minute I'll slow down. Anyway, yeah, obviously big news of the week was that Kerbal Space Program 0.22 has been released, and all your favourite mods are already getting updated. Some of them are just integrating directly into the tech tree, others are actually extending the tech tree using Ramon or whatever, tech tree changer thingy. The one that I'm very likely going to use, because everybody's said yes, is the Interstellar mod, which actually will add a whole lot of things like warp drive and, you know, fusion thrusters and antimatter systems. I'll stick those all off the end of the tech tree, and so I'll have a proper playthrough without trying to cheat my way to 10,000 science in a single mission, although that's quite plausible. Elsewhere, there's a Kickstarter which you might be interested in called Eden's Star. It's another survival space kind of thing. Go and check it out. May or may not be interested. The other Kickstarter, of course, is Star Citizen, which is continuing to do ridiculously good business. It just passed, literally in the last few minutes of me making this, $24 million, which means everybody's going to have this interplanetary, interstellar transport thing, so you can travel around without flying a spaceship. And similarly, the stretch goal for 26 is now going to be enhanced capital ships, which means you'll be able to work as damage, control crew. You'll be able to run around and put out fires and close blast doors and stuff. Anyway, after that docking, we now have to wait for the planets to synchronize. So I pretty much switch myself to a vehicle on the surface, because of course you can do the time warp at 100,000 times normal speed. Obviously, if this were a real mission, I would have planned that I didn't do the launch until the planets were synchronized, but I wasn't really thinking that far ahead. Regardless, we just got to wait until planet Kerbin is slightly ahead in the orbit, and then from there it's of course a case of plotting out a suitable orbit to plotting out a suitable intercept. Of course, you can't do that until after you've undocked, so I make sure I transfer all the fuel. What I'm going to do is take this stage with me, right? This has a bunch of fuel, it has a bunch of RCS, and we're going to actually use this to boost ourselves up to a near escape orbit, and then that thing will have fuel left over in the RCS that we'll be able to aerobrake and dock it back to the spacecraft rather than bringing it back to planet Kerbin, because it's not really safe to land with that stuck on the front. It would be a really bad idea. Anyway, a little bit of adjusting of the orbit, no problem, and then we, of course, time accelerate around the orbit, and of course during all this time, we would be doing all sorts of interesting things, no doubt, observing the planet and getting more readings and sending signals to those things on the surface. But once we're here, we fire up the engines and the RCS simultaneously. There is a lot of RCS fuel, so it makes sense to use it at the same time. It provides quite a significant boost to the acceleration here. So you see that I'm more or less sitting here holding H the whole time as I fire my main thrusters and my RCS. For maximum efficiency, I mean, if you're in such a situation, you have the choice between RCS fuel and regular fuel, and you know your delta V is going to be your limiting factor. Use up the RCS fuel first. Use up the stuff with the lowest specific impulse to start with, because then you will be able to use your higher specific impulse when you have less mass to shoot and move around. But I know I've got enough here. I'm just going to try and, you know, burn through as much of it as possible. We're not going to get all the way to escape velocity with just the fuel in this stage. There's a tank there with the fuel, and you can see it burning down there. We're going to burn that out completely. Then whatever's left in terms of RCS, we'll make sure we fill up those little lateral tanks, and then we shall undock this thing so that we can leave it behind to dock back with the space station around Eve. So yeah, other news, EVE Online. EVE Online, hilarious stuff going on tonight was apparently Black Legion tried to drop a fleet on top of Makalo's Titan in Pandemic Legion, but it may have in fact been a trap because the fleet basically came back against them, and everybody suddenly rushed to get a lot of super cap kills. And it looks like in the last few hours that Black Legion have lost 25 super carriers, about 50 other capital ships, and of course hundreds of subcaps. This was an insane thing. Of course, as soon as you hear about super carriers tackled, every alliance from everywhere in the game sends their ships, usually to kill them, but sometimes to help. You know, when super capitals get captured, it tends to become everybody wants to get in and get on a kill mail. There's been some fighting in Providence to try to, you know, there's new people want to take some space there. And in the Caldari factional warfare zone, they have been finally kicked out by a joint Minmatar Galente task force. They've kicked them out of Vladistir. So Reddit is coming over with its crew. So we'll have perhaps a little more balance in that region. But anyway, we do the fuel transfer so that we can continue on our way. We'll drop this when we get the opportunity. Just transfer the fuel over. And so we're ready. We're all checked out. Nope, we're going to undock. 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 No! No! After all the technical troubles, I am unable to undock. This is a bad idea because I can't really land with that on top of me. It would be dangerous. So I try some plans, some ideas to get this off. First of all, I figure that if I spin fast enough, maybe I can put too much stress on that docking port and it'll fly off. This is a long shot, I'll admit it, but you know, normally when I'm trying to build a system, it's quite, you know, these docking ports break on me when I'm not trying to have them break. So surely if I put some concerted effort into it, it should be quite easy for me to break them. And of course, time acceleration always seems to make things more breakable. But 4 times time acceleration, you can see that they're not connected. But will they disconnect? No. No, I'm just spinning my guys, and you can see them in the corner. They are not looking particularly happy by any means. No, no. Well, yeah. I tried doing a lot of things. I tried editing the save file. I tried to make the ports weaker, but that didn't work. I've tried wobbling things back and forth, hoping that I would find some resonant frequency that would lead to the thing, you know, exerting more force. But, well, I have no rhythm, clearly, and I couldn't make this work. Yeah, I tried to edit it so that the thing would undock, and that wouldn't work. I tried to make it overheat, still wouldn't work. So ultimately, we give up, and we decide to set our course for home with this attached, and figure out whether we can actually land it with all this extra weight on the nose. So the first thing I thought is, well, might as well use up all the fuel in that tank. So I get myself set up and I start firing the RCS engines for the first pass. So remember what we're going to say, we're going to burn all the RCS engines, and this is of course another tediously long burn. Thankfully, at least in this case, you can watch it time accelerated, and in fact I can time accelerate it, so we can burn through that fuel. And the time that it takes me to comment that, oh yes, Star Citizen also, they had this event where they launched their new Hornet variants today. So there's 3 new types. There's a Ghost, which is a stealth version, the Tracker, which is like an AWACS, and the Super Hornet, which is a 2-seater with lots of guns. And yeah, people are of course already spent a lot of money on that. But interestingly enough, because of the government shutdown, apparently they're extending the sale on the Super version, right, which will only be in the store until November 4th. They've extended the sale to make sure all the government people can get their paychecks so they can spend it on internet spaceships, you know. Great, because, you know, it's nice to know that somebody's caring. But anyway, yes, I have now put myself in a somewhat odd situation because I've been mucking around and hadn't really been paying attention to my to the position of my Apple apps. It actually turns out that I have to tweak this quite a lot. So you see me, I'm trying to tweak this so that the encounter happens at the descending node out there. You see the descending node on the other side of the orbit. So by doing that, it means I won't need like a mid-course correction to do a large plane change, which can actually be quite energetic. However, it does mean that I need to push my burn position way around the orbit to a rather a non-ideal location, let's say. Oh, there we go. Look, we got ourselves an encounter. And it's 400 meters per second. It would take me 150 meters per second to get onto that escape trajectory that would be Kerbin crossing, but the timing would not be perfect. And I figure that I do have about 800 meters per second of delta V left, so it's not such a problem. It still gives me a fairly decent amount for terminal guidance and a bit to cushion my impact, because after all, we're now going to be carrying more weight than we expected. And to be honest, the thing I'm most worried about is the crew can. The crew can is not really meant for super high loads on it, and it does have a habit of being the one thing that breaks. Regardless, yeah, I'm making the burn and we are going to get out there. One also, well, interesting thing that was in the news in the last few days as well was asteroid 2013 TV-135, which a whole lot of places reported was going to possibly hit the Earth. And to be honest, the chances of it hitting the Earth in 2032 are so low that we're more likely to be hit by a completely different asteroid in the intervening time, one that we haven't discovered. So stop reading all those scare stories, it's not a problem. In fact, yeah, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, you should go and check out spaceweather.com. They also report on this kind of thing, and they report on shorter term stuff. For example, right now, the Orionid meteor shower, they radiate from Orion. That is active. It's not a huge meteor shower by any means. It's actually bits of Halley's Comet, believe it or not. If you get up around 4 AM and take a look, you might be able to see the odd meteor shower. And actually, if you wait an hour more, you should be able to see the comet Ison is now visible through binoculars quite easily in the eastern sky before sunrise. They're also reporting on spaceweather.com that there is a pretty good chance of some major solar flare activity in the next few days. So, you know, check that stuff out. Anyway, we are making our final correction to encounter, and it shows that we are going to hit, but we still have fuel left in reserve just in case, because we all know how sensitive these crossings of sphere of influence boundaries can be. And yeah, I'm just running this, what, 10,000 times acceleration here. And yes, I messed it up. So I skipped into the sphere of influence at 10k, which meant that I've shifted my periaps a little high. If we leave this, we will swing by the planet Kerbin and disappear back off into space, which is not a good thing. We have 7 people here and they're rapidly running out of snacks. It would be unfortunate if they had to start eating each other or something like that. Yes, well, we've adjusted our orbit. We're going to descend through the atmosphere and hopefully the capsule will not be crushed by the remaining part of the spacecraft. I'm also worried that with the extra weight we might hit the water going too fast or something. I'm just going to accept what happens here. We'll find out. So yeah, blazing through at 27, 28, 25. Yes, doing some quite ridiculous speeds here, but that's how we do it. Parachutes already deployed by accident. Obviously asbestos coated parachutes as before. I'm surprised that nobody has fixed that, but you know, nevertheless, we'll see that happening at some point. Yeah, I'm looking at deadly re-entry with my Interstellar, and B9 and KW rocketry should give me a decent set of tools to provide a new and interesting series. There we go. Yay! We survived opening the parachutes. That was my first fear, was that we would open the parachutes and then the whole thing would fall apart and we'd all die. And using them to cushion, yes, we get them all back. We are back from Eve. All 7 of us. Let us pose for a photo. Yes, so that is Eve or bust. We successfully completed our mission. We are not bust. We sent a rocket, we sent landers, we sent rovers, we sent submarines, we sent airships, we returned everyone successfully to orbit with no fatalities, we left a space station behind, and now we have returned everyone successfully to the planet Kerbin in one piece. This is your crew: Obwig, Philzor, Gerford, Lodlock, Bill, Bob, and Jebediah Kerman. I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.